To order the City of Glenwood Springs, the regular city council meeting. Good evening, everyone. It is May 7th, 2026. And Ryan, would you please take a roll call?
Mayor Dame.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski. Councillor Townsley. Councillor Schmall. Councillor Weimer. Councillor Schachter. Councillor Smith. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Going down the agenda, first up, changes to the agenda. Anybody have a change that they want to mention? No changes. Then we have conflict of interests. Any conflict of interest from councilors tonight with items on the agenda? Also see none. Then we'll get into the citizens appearing before council and council response, if necessary, for items that are not on the agenda. So anybody that's here to voice their grievances or praises, step up. Okay, we'll see none. We'll close the public portion of that. And we'll get into council announcements. Any council announcements? Oh, I don't have, let's see, what do I need to do? There you go. Councilor Townsley, please.
A couple quick things from Parks and Rec. One of them's kind of ways out, but I'll just throw it out there. The Art Center is going to have an open house on August 15th. They've totally revamped the building, put a ton of new courses in there. Probably be a good thing to see. I did take a tour of the building and it's really nicely redone. North Landing kickoff is Thursday, next Thursday, the 14th from 4:30 to 5:15. Hopefully the bathrooms won't have been vandalized by then. GoPro, everybody's familiar with the GoPro games in Vail and Avon. They are running short on water for the kayaking events and the whitewater events. So they're going to probably try to move those over here, assuming we have enough water. So June 5th and June 6th, we'll have a bunch of GoPro game stuff going on down at the Whitewater Park. So it'll be fun to get people down for that. The pickleball people that come around all the time, they now have pickleball for Tuesday and Thursday nights on the ice rink. The ice rink also has skateboarding and roller derby. I think we should put a team together. Rocky Mountain Youth Corps is going to be doing fire mitigation work above Oasis Creek this year, much like they did on above the Glenwood Cemetery. And you'll start seeing tents going up at the rec center. So don't think that it's a new camping project, but it's the Rocky Mountain Youth Conservation.
Excellent. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski, please.
Just a reminder that there is a fishing closure that goes through the end of, I think it's the end of May. There's kind of some different, but it's for their spawning, and we don't want to stress our fish out any more than they already will be with the drought and the other things. And so this includes not just fishing, but also maybe don't bring your dog down there and have them jumping around in the pools and the eddies, and just try and protect our fishing population.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Smith.
Thank you. The Transportation Commission met last week in their regular monthly meeting. Lots going on, but two primary projects they're focusing on. One, getting ready for the city councils and the city staff's fiscal year 2027 budget process. This is kind of procedurally significant because the other big thing that they're working on is updating the long-range transportation plan, which is at its midpoint in its 20-year life. And most of the things have been done. So I'm going to start working on that into the fall, but meanwhile, bring more priority projects in consultation with staff in time for budget process. They're also working on monitoring the transportation management organization project that is being funded by a combination of city money and clean energy economy for the region money and state money. That kind of feasibility and design work is going to be, has a contract that continues till next April. There's some talk about the TMO organization coming back to city council for some supplemental money in the 2027 budget. Personally, I think it's more likely that they're going to have something to sell if they wait till after the April, but that's all happening. And both of those may have some features for the budgeting process. Councilor Zielinski may want to mention this separately, but RAFTA, the Roaring Fork Transportation Authority Board, is having its big annual strategic planning retreat next week. And so any ideas, any questions, any input anybody has would be useful for that. The Colorado Mountain College Center for Civics, with a big grant that they have from a couple of sources, doing major outreach and public events about civic engagement and civic understanding, constitutional literacy, continues with several events, including one on May 20th in Carbondale at 6, that really digs into the Constitution and how it works, so kind of a nice grounding. They also just sent out their continuing education catalog that came out recently. In there is a string of 3 classes that I think are going to be very enlightening in terms of understanding government process, particularly a 3-session class, a series of classes that begin in June as part of that schedule, but you can get that in this class, in this flyer that came in everybody's mailbox, or at coloradomtn.edu/civics. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements? No? Okay, excellent. We'll move to the consent agenda for tonight. And in the consent agenda tonight, we have 4 items. We have the April 16, 2026 council minutes. We have the Historic Preservation Commission reappointments. We have the Tourism Management Board appointment and the Planning and Zoning Commission appointment. And with that, I'm entertaining a motion to move on the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the 4 items listed.
Thank you. And I need a second. Council Schachter,
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? See none, I'll call for the question.
It's unanimous. It passes.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky, please. Oh, let's try that.
That's right. I just would like to take a moment and thank our reappointment. We have 3 different boards and commissions that have members. We have reappointed Kyle Jones to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have reappointed Carolyn Sipperly, Marian Ackerman, James Larson, and Eric Hand to the Historic Preservation Commission. And we have a new appointment to the Tourism Management Board, and that is Monroe Wilcox. I appreciate you all and your willingness to serve our community.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a quick point of clarification. Kyle Jones was actually moved from an alternate to a permanent position. So excellent, though. Thank you all for joining our commissions. With that, we'll get into the proclamation designating May as a Historic Preservation Month, and we're going to do items 7 and 8 kind of together. 8 would be officially recognized structures of merit and preservation awards, but we'll start with the proclamation. And for that, I'd like to call up our chairperson of the Historic Preservation Commission, which is Carolyn Sipperly, and our staff liaison to that commission, which is Emery Ellingson. So here we go. A proclamation for Historic Preservation Month, May 2026. Whereas the National Trust for Historic Preservation established May as Historic Preservation Month in 1973 as a way to promote historic places for the purpose of installing community pride and showing the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. And whereas Historic Preservation Month can instill awareness of the local historically significant buildings and landmarks to the residents of Glenwood Springs. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped our community. And whereas the Glenwood Springs community continues to demonstrate its commitment through historic surveys, the nomination of cultural resources as local landmarks, the protection of its resources, both built and natural, and the recognition, rehabilitation, and restoration of historic properties. Now, therefore, I, Marco Dame, Mayor of the City of Glenwood Springs, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as National Preservation Month and call upon the City of Glenwood Springs to join their fellow citizens across the country in recognizing and participating in this special observance. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado to be affixed the 7th day of May in the year 2026. And I'll sign this in a second. Congratulations for the
Thank you.
history.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go, and we'll do this. It is official. Excellent. Then here, we're moving on to the, let me see if I got the right one, because I think only one party is here tonight. Is it Colorado Avenue?
Colorado Avenue and 829 Pitkin.
Okay, so before we get into the structure of merits, would please you or Emery explain what a structure of merit is?
So structures of merits are buildings in Glenwood Springs that exhibit architectural and historic significance. So in light of preservation this month, we just wanted to highlight a couple different structures in town. 1008 Colorado Avenue, and then also 829 Pitkin Avenue. So I think the owners are in attendance, and if you want to come up and receive your award.
Okay, so is 829 Pitkin Avenue here?
Yes. Okay.
Oh, you guys are here.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Come on up.
So we're going to go.
Over this way.
Yeah.
Come on, straight this way.
Yes.
There, you're just about here.
There you go. Fantastic. This is awesome. So we'll have, this is the Historic Preservation Award. This 7th day of May, 2026, the Glenwood Springs Historic Preservation Commission recognizes 829 Pitkin Avenue as a structure of merit. Congratulations. You have a beautiful home. Let's do this.
It's a massage studio.
Is my massage studio?
Okay, little plug for the massage studio at 829 Pitkin. Excellent. Thank you so much. You got it back. Okay.
Come on back.
Great. Okay, thank you. And then the next one is 1008 Colorado Avenue, which is the Wallers, I think.
The
Both of them are here.
Pink
Pete,
Palace.
the Pink Palace, Pete and Gina Waller. Please come up. Thank you for being here tonight. Same goes to you. Historic Preservation Award, this 7th day of May, 2026, the Glenwood Springs Historic Preservation Commission recognizes 1008 Colorado Avenue as a structure of merit. Thank you so much for what you have done with the place.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for being part of our community.
Yes.
Thank you so much. There you go. So thank you all for coming up and thank you all for being here. There we go. Okay, that was 7 and 8 on tonight's agenda. With the conclusion of those items, we're moving into actions and or presentations. And item 9 on the agenda is the Rudai Water and Power Authority, also known as RWAPA, presentation on invasive species. Paula. Oh, Paula and April. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Thank you for, thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Paula Steff. I know many of you. Thank you for serving. I am the new, I'm the new executive director for Rudai Water and Power Authority, and we are in transition. And April is.
I'm the outgoing executive director of the Rudai Water and Power Authority. So I am here to make sure that we have a smooth transition and also just to introduce you to Paula and to answer any questions that go back into the history about Rudai Water and Power Authority, RWAPA, that you may have. So I am handing over a hat literally in front of us.
Okay, excellent.
So April stepped down at the end of the year, but stepped down officially, but she's been working with me for the last 6 months. So she's not really stepped down, and I truly
Quite
appreciate
a water year to try to step out of water. So there's a lot going on, but I'll let you do that and I'll stand up.
Great, thank you. So I just wanted to give a quick update where we are this year and what our goals are. Rudai Water and Power Authority came together back in 1981 when the Bureau of Reclamation was going to allow a hydro plant up at the dam. The town of Aspen and Pitkin County decided to pull together different stakeholders in the valley to see if they could develop that hydro plant because they would have first, what do you call it, first priority as far as making that move towards having something like that. They found out eventually that it's just Aspen and Pitkin County that are controlling the actual hydropower plant and stuff, but the collaborative came together and we've been working together since then with representation from all our different towns and Eagle and Pitkin County on water issues in this watershed, all the way from Independence Pass till it hits the Colorado River. There are a number of things that have happened over the past years, but it always kind of comes back to quality and quantity of water. And what is happening with our, in the more recent years, what's happening with aquatic nuisance species. I know that you guys have had a number of presentations on this. I know that you're aware that we had a dismal snowpack. And there are all sorts of things that people are doing to mitigate that impact in our water supplies, for irrigation, for recreation, and it's going to take a lot of work from all of us. Today, which is why I'm stuttering a bit, we had an 8-hour meeting, roughly 8 hours up in Carbondale with Roaring Fork stakeholders, people from the water treatment plants, including Matt Langhorst, Warren Hayes, people from towns, our board of representatives that were able to make it, people from nonprofits like Roaring Fork Conservancy, Pitkin County Healthy Rivers was there. So we all kind of went through some major topics that we are helping to lead or being part of that outreach. And in particular, what we can do as far as water conservation this year and how we get that message to our citizens and get them to embrace it. Many people know we had a miserable snow year. Not 100%, but many people know that, and they know that as a result, we may have already seen the peak of the Roaring Fork in March. Hopefully we get another double dip in there or double peak in there. Our water flow going through the Colorado River is down quite a bit already, and they're trying to figure out how to divide up that water and sustain the Grand Valley irrigators without them pulling more water from our system that we need in our municipalities. The A&S program that RUWAPA subsidizes up at Rudai Reservoir is to inspect the boats up there. So as you have seen in previous presentations, because I've been here, the aquatic nuisance species we're concerned about are zebra mussels and the New Zealand mud snails. And in the presentation today from CPW, every time I go to one of their meetings, they've discovered more places that they're seeing these mussels. And we need to be in the forefront, all of us throughout the watershed, on how do we mitigate or slow down that spread before it starts infesting our municipal infrastructure or our irrigation and watering that we need for both raw water irrigating in our towns and for our farm community. Part of that, and I'm going to have April speak to this, back in 2018 and in previous years when we had this bad of water situations, we went to some of the folks, and Colorado River District went to folks with contracted water in Rudai Reservoir. And we've requested that the River District right now is requesting that water to help mitigate some of the demand from the Grand Valley water irrigators and make sure our municipalities are okay. But I'm also working with them on what we might need in the Roaring Fork. And in particular, when this was done in the past year, it was to cool the Roaring Fork because of our fish populations. So I'm going to let April speak to it more. I'm chattering on and running on. So
No, you're fine. You're doing great. So as Paula mentioned, one of the interesting roles that RUWAPA plays in this regional position in the watershed is in advocating for how releases, how and when releases happen out of Rudai Reservoir. All the water in the reservoir is contracted, so held by contracts and water rights holders. Glenwood Springs has water in Rudai Reservoir, and those contractees can call for the water whenever they need it. what became interesting in these dry years like 2018 and 2021 and 2022 was that we still had a lot of water in Rudai, even though we were in a drought. And so we began to think about how could we more creatively put that water to use to solve some of the drought problems that we were having. And so, like she was mentioning, the Colorado River District, in partnership with RWAPA, asked some of the contract water rights holders if they would be willing and able to release some of the water to help improve the conditions that we were seeing in the Roaring Fork. I think Counselor Zielinski was just mentioning that there's a fishing closure right now. When the water temperatures heat up and the air temperatures are hot as well, we see fishing closures, not just in the Roaring Fork and the Colorado River, but across the state. One of the interesting things that happens in the Roaring Fork is that those fishing closures tend to begin in the upper Colorado River and in the Eagle River before they come to the Roaring Fork. And so in addition to us experiencing the high temperatures and our fishing population being stressed simply by temperatures, they also get stressed by pressure, because all of the anglers that are used to fishing on the Colorado or the Eagle are now moving into the Roaring Fork because it's the last stretch of river that's still open. And so we have stress from angling, and our guides get a little stressed, and then also the fish are stressed from the temperatures. So one of the creative things that we did was release water out of Rudai Reservoir for a designated time to try to increase the water volume and decrease the temperatures in the river so that we could keep it cooler and keep that fishing closure appropriate for a couple of weeks longer, which helps our economies because it's helping our guiding services stay open for longer and also helps our environment. And so that's kind of an example of a role that RWAPA plays, and it's also an example of what we might expect to have happen this year. We don't know for certain where everything's going to go. Rudai Reservoir is not going to fill. We know that everybody is going to be short on water. It might be Grand Valley ag producers. It might be downstream municipal water providers. It might be both. It might be that we need to adjust for temperatures in the Roaring Fork. And so we're just trying to preface this for you there may be conversations to come about how do we creatively use your water like we have before, in conjunction with lots of other contract water rights holders of Rudai water. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's not an ask for today. It's just more of a preface of like, this is kind of what we have to deal with and the way that RWAPA serves you all.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything?
And the second part of what we're doing is looking at a water conservation messaging, as I mentioned earlier. And I've been working with different towns on what their messaging is. And we're hoping to coordinate it so it works well together and doesn't step on toes, but at the same time, make sure the whole valley kind of understands what we're dealing with this. So questions? I tried to keep it to 5 minutes, right?
Fantastic. 7.5 is.
Okay.
So thank you for the information. It's definitely an interesting year this year. And oh, there we go. But thanks for all the info you guys bring to us. Any questions from council to the RWAPA ladies?
And I don't know if Paula mentioned, but Counselor Zielinski is your representative on the RWAPA board.
Right.
Okay.
Newly chosen.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Volunteered. Excellent. Well, there we go. One question. Councillor Schmall, please.
Is there a point at when the water level in Rudai prohibits boating?
Yeah,
There is.
yeah. Well, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Easy expert.
There,
Yes.
there's the yacht club and the marina. It reaches the elevation for them sooner than it does for motorized vehicles, but it's only because of their marina, their docks are coming up out of the water. And then there is a point where the boat ramp turns from pavement to mud, and that prohibits motorized vehicles from being able to launch. And so it's not a legal issue. It's more of just a physical issue of like their trailers get stuck in the mud if they try to launch at that level.
And how does that relate to where you expect the reservoir to get this year?
I believe that elevation is somewhere below 60,000 acre feet, and Rudai holds 102,000 acre feet when it's full. We're not going to get to 102,000 acre feet this year. We're already above 60, well above 60,000 acre feet. And we usually only get to that level in late October. It's possible we'll draw down root eye to that level in September. And so we'll be watching that. But I believe the water levels are anticipated to get to above 80,000 acre feet by the 4th of July, which is when they stop filling and start releasing.
So there basically will be boating all season.
There should be boating at least until September, but the season for boaters goes until the end of October. So it may be an early season.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll see none. Anybody from the public have any questions to the Rudai water supply? Okay, we'll see none. Well, thank you for being here and please come back with an update.
We will.
Once you know more what's going on
Yes,
around us in there. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, item 10, Cabin Springs Mobile Home Park funding request. And I don't know who's gonna, oh, there's Watkins. He's gonna kick it off for us.
Good evening, council. I'm going to get my PowerPoint going.
Excellent.
Okay, so the item for you all tonight is a funding request for the preservation of a mobile home park called Cabin Springs. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to talk too long tonight, but I'm going to give you some background on this mobile home park, what the request is, some information about the request, and about the financial picture that the Workforce Housing Fund is in. And then we do have some other folks from the park who would like to speak tonight. So Cabin Springs is in unincorporated Garfield County. It's just a little bit outside city limits to our south. There are 98 homes where about 300 people, including 60 children, live. Like most mobile home parks, the residents there own their homes, but not the land underneath it. So they pay monthly lot rent, and that's everybody that pays monthly lot rent, and that's in perpetuity. The average household income there is about $74,000. And based on our estimates using our cell phone data, about 36% of those residents work in Glenwood. It is zoned commercial limited in the county, which means that there are some retail and office sort of uses by right that they can do. And also multifamily is allowed there if the park ever were to redevelop. This is where it is, if you can see. It's pretty near Thunder River, near the Habitat Restore. So what the request is to help fund this park so that the residents can buy it and convert it into what's called resident ownership. That means that the residents jointly, in the form of a cooperative, would own the land underneath the park, which would allow them to control the future of the park, control the lot rents. They would be in charge of all maintenance in the future. And so as the owners of the land underneath them, as well as the residents, that obviously gives them an incentive to have the lot rents be as low as possible while still letting them raising enough money to do all the maintenance and to have healthy reserves. But that is the method for preserving affordability in the park. And so that's why this resident-owned cooperative or ROC model has gotten a lot of notoriety recently. And we've seen some examples in the Roaring Fork Valley in Glenwood of mobile home parks turning into ROCs. In Glenwood specifically, we have what used to be called the Mountain Mobile Home Parks, now the Glen Valley Cooperative. That happened last year. So there's a few players that I want to introduce. The first is Sopris Mountain Collective, which is the official name of the resident organization, the residents of the park. I think we have some representatives here tonight. Also, Mountain Voices Project is a nonprofit that we have in our valley that are assisting the residents to organize and assisting them to raise funds for this effort. Also, Thistle Rock, you might hear some references to. They are a nonprofit based in the Front Range. They are kind of a technical assistance provider for these folks who are trying to convert their parks into ROCs. As you can imagine, it's a very complicated process, and it doesn't end with them buying the parks. It goes a lot farther than that, and they help them set up the the co-op so that they're successful in the future, that they do the right things, like have funds in reserve and have an effective governance structure in the co-op. And then also we have the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, or what I'll just call the Regional Housing Coalition, which is playing an important role to help coordinate the response and support from local governments like us, as well as private donors, to assist the residents in raising the funds that they need. Funding request is a forgivable loan of $500,000. In exchange for that, that funding request, the plan would be to have an affordability covenant, which is similar to what we've done with other mobile home parks in Glenwood and the two that occurred up Valley, that would preserve it for members of the local workforce and preserve it for occupancy by owners of the mobile homes. If this ROC effort isn't successful, the funds that if you decide to commit any funds to it, it would be de-obligated and not spent. So any decision that you make tonight, we're not writing a check tomorrow. It's just putting our name on the list of people who will make this possible. And if it doesn't work out, we won't lose anything, any money anyway. If this effort isn't successful, we believe that there is a corporate investor who is ready, waiting in the wings to make that offer of $23 million. So other local government commitments, and there is some new information here. City of Aspen has pledged $2 million, Snowmass Village $1 million, Carbondale $500,000, and Pitkin County $1.5 million. So this money, if you all choose to commit anything, would come from the Workforce Housing Fund. And we do have the money for it, is the short story. Right now, with all the current expenditures that we have, we're projected to have about $900,000 in the bank at the end of the year. So if the full request were honored, we would still have a healthy amount, around $400,000 left. As a reminder, the Workforce Housing Fund can only be used for affordable housing projects, partnerships, and that sort of thing. So there's no implication to our roads or any of our other basic services by spending this money. The funding request, if you take the average of 98 homes and the $500,000 from us requested, that comes to about $5,100 per home. And if there are any questions about workforce housing funding spent outside city limits, we can talk about this in more detail, but it is allowed with the proper findings that you all might make. So if we talk about the list of reasons why and why not to do this, the list of reasons why not, this park is, as I've mentioned, outside city limits. So these residents are not, strictly speaking, residents of Glenwood Springs. It would also limit future and unknown funding requests. On the list of things to think about for support of this, though, is that it would help Glenwood workers. 36% of those workers we think are work in Glenwood or in the 81601 zip code. This is a preservation effort also. And so preservation would help avoid additional pressure on Glenwood's housing market, our own housing market. And it would avoid creating additional traffic in and through Glenwood, because if you think about what might happen in the worst case scenario where there's lots of displacement, where are those folks going to go? Many of them are going to come to Glenwood and down valley of us. And that means they'll be traveling through Glenwood to get to their places of employment more likely. And from that same reasoning, this would avoid creating more greenhouse gas emissions from that commuting, using our roads. There would be expenditures, people using the Highway 82 for their commuting. It would keep children in our school district. The park is in the Riverview and Glenwood Springs High School zones. It would also avoid the possibility of our mobile homes going to either the city's landfill or the county's landfill. Those are obviously kind of high volume things that can fill up our landfill. And this is preserving affordability, and it's development neutral. Development neutral meaning that we're not building anything new. This is just maintaining it as it is, keeping it affordable. This request was heard by Workforce Housing Fund Advisory Board last month, and they voted 7-0 to recommend the full funding request. Our long-range plans don't speak specifically about mobile home parks in too many ways, but our comprehensive plan does have a goal that is to promote long-term sustainable and diverse economic development. So to the extent that having a workforce that can live near Glenwood is part of economic development. This does help support that. Our strategic housing plan does list as a goal to prioritize the preservation of mobile home parks. That's very specific. And in the Workforce Housing Fund Advisory Board's implementation plan, one of the strategies is to establish property acquisition pilot program to facilitate the purchase of existing properties. And then it does say, i.e. mobile home parks for affordable housing preservation. So if you all choose to approve, we do recommend you include these findings. These are the same that are in your packet. These are tied pretty specifically to the ballot language in the enabling ordinance. And I have a motion that you could think about if you choose to approve. If you choose to deny the request, I have another motion here that you can look at for guidance too. So that's all I have for you all. I think we can maybe hold questions until after the applicant presentation, or however you'd like to do it, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think let's do a quick round of questions to staff, just to get that out of the way.
Okay.
If there is any, and if not, we'll Counselor Small, and then we'll invite the applicant up.
Watkins, I presume the 36% workers in Glenwood Springs is from Placer AI information?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to me how that works? How do you know a cell phone is coming to work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first you have to know who lives in Cavern Springs. So that's kind of a two-step. Identify who lives in Cavern Springs, and then figure out where that person who lives there is going and whether they're going to work or going on an errand or dropping the kids off or what have you. So to determine this anonymized cell phone person, whether they live there or not, we look at a snapshot, or not a snapshot, but a longer look, 30 to 45 days, whether that person is spending time in this geographical area between like midnight and 4 a.m., thinking that that's kind of a good indicator of whether they live there or not. And so then once you have these anonymous people, you know where they go after that. And so they also took a long-term look about where they are in the city. And so that's over a period, I think, of also 30 to 45 days, and it's spending between 3 and 8 hours. So it's not capturing people who are in town for 15 minutes. It's capturing people for longer periods of time and making the assumption that when that's a repeated pattern, that they're coming to work.
Maybe part-time, maybe full-time, maybe doing errands.
Possibly, but 3 hours doing errands, I guess that could happen. But it would be unlikely that they'd be doing that for days in a row,
Oh, it's consecutive workday type?
Yes. Yes.
I got you. Thank you. And is the organization that was helping the Mountain Mobile Park, are they on board with this yet?
Yes, sir. Thistle Rock is the name, and
Thistle Rock, yeah.
they are working with the residents.
They're working with them. Have they signed them up? Are they all the way committed?
They are. They have committed to lending some money to them also. So that's part of their capital stack for this. They are committed to the
They
park.
are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky, please.
Can you explain to me why this is structured as a forgivable loan rather than a grant?
It's really so that we can have a way to know that we're not that the money that we're spending will be spent in the way we want it to. So, if we just gave them this money, the residents could theoretically turn around and sell the park and then make a profit themselves. So we don't want that to happen. So that's the string we tie to it with the affordability covenants, and it's
Got
a
it.
grant as long as they meet those requirements.
Got it. And then, so then what are the terms of that loan? I'm assuming there's an expiration date on it when it becomes forgiven.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think all of those details are established yet. The plan is to have it be a lot like what we did Up Valley. If y'all remember those 2 mobile home parks that we committed $100,000 to, and they were successful in the end. So some of the terms of those were that the mobile homes have to be occupied by the owner, so they wouldn't be rented out. Short-term rentals are not allowed. The term, I think it's a 99-year term of that affordability covenant, and then there's some kind of re-upping of the term after that that happens automatically.
Excellent, thank you.
Counselor Townsley.
Just quick follow-up on Counselor Small's question. Does that include kids that would be in school all day long, high school kids, regular kids? Does that hold out of that 36% somehow, or is that part of that?
If the kids have phones, then they would be included in it. Placer, my understanding is that they have a way of making some assumptions about children, understanding that not all kids have phones, but that there are some kids. And so the assumption that there's some kids in there is kind of baked into that also.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Wyman.
Watkins, is there a precedent of us spending 2C money outside of city limits?
No, there is not yet.
Okay, any other questions at this point? Okay, we'll see none. Thank you. Thank you. Watkins, would the applicant care to come forward?
And I think what we're going to start with is a video. We're not going to start with that? Okay. Okay. Great.
Okay, please state your name for the record.
My name is Maria Judith Alvarez, and I live in Cavern Springs.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Dem and members of the City Council. Thank you for your time and for your commitment for our community. I am here today as a president of our community and also a leader of Mountain Voices project called MVP. And I was not only a participant of the Proposition 2C campaign, I was one of the leaders advocated for it. And today I am here living the reality of what that investment was meant to support. We are here with a clear opportunity for Glenwood Springs to invest in the preservation of the long-term affordable workforce housing. We are requesting what you hear, $500,000 forgiven loan from the 2C fund to help resident Cavern Springs purchase our community and protect 98 homes for the workers who keep this running this city. About what you hear, 36% of these residents work here in Glenwood Springs, what they say in restaurant, construction, education, healthcare, and also some of them, there is a volunteer of the addressing food insecurity every Saturday here in the middle school, attended at least 800 families for a month. Today, those families are facing a real fear to knowing if they will be able to remain in their homes. Last year, our park was listed in sale. And we have seen what can happen next. The rent increase, and also it's a displacement of families. They are start doing that, some families. But our community did not stay still. 96% of the residents vote in favor of a resident ownership. With the support in collaboration with MVP and Housing Coalition, we are organized and brought a lot of resources together. And we are doing everything possible to be part of the solution. Glenwood Springs already made an important decision when voters approved Proposal 2C and they invest in a workforce housing. The funds are there. The purpose is clear, and this request is directly aligned with that purpose. This is not a handout. This is an investment in stability and workforce retention, and in the future of this community. This is a real family. This is a real community, and I respectfully ask for you vote yes in this request. And now I want to show you what Cavern Springs residents are doing for make this dream real through this video.
There it is. There you go.
Hello, Council. I'm Alex Dowie. I'm a Glenwood resident and I'm on the Workforce Housing Board. So just wanted to say a few things. Thanks for giving me some time here. So as Watkins said, our board did unanimously vote to recommend this funding because of the alignment with our 2C mission statement and the implementation plan. And the return on investment is very strong. If you do the math with all 98 units, that's $5,100 a unit. If we look at that 36% estimate of workers in Glenwood Springs, that's more like 14,000 per unit. And as you know, our investments so far have ranged anywhere from 11,000 a unit up to about 48,000 a unit across the different projects that council has funded. So very much in line with those. All these numbers are much lower than new construction costs, and this is also development neutral. But the big opportunity we see is that we can preserve 98 units here that can be available for Glenwood employers now and in the future. And this is an existing housing that we can protect now. And Watkins mentioned some of the other benefits beyond the workforce housing in terms of traffic and other things that protecting this existing affordable housing can provide for us. Some of the things that make this different are that the residents have done a lot of the heavy lifting already, getting almost unanimous buy-in from the residents, winning legal battles, building a regional coalition. And they're not asking us to fund this alone. There's other local governments that have already committed funding. And overall, this is part of being a partner in a $24 million solution that they've already got in motion. So we feel that because we have room in our budget for this, while still funding all of our existing commitments, we should fund it. And that's what our recommendation is to council. It doesn't leave us with a lot of money left over for the rest of the year, but we believe that this fund exists to take advantage of opportunities that come up and invest in them. And that's what we have in front of us today. So thanks for your time. And our recommendation from the board is to fund the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Is there any other applicant? Yes, of course. Thank you.
I'm the last one. And if you'll pull up my slides, because I have a slide that'll help show the stack.
Name for the record, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm April Long.
Thank
I
you.
just switched hats. I am the executive director of the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition that Watkins mentioned as part of the group. Our coalition, of which Glenwood Springs is a member, we are a new nonprofit working in the space of trying to address our affordable workforce housing issues with a regional lens. And we were formed by the local governments, including Glenwood Springs, in response to the growing housing crisis that we have. And our responsibility back to our local governments are to bring the region together on workforce housing solutions that impact the entire region, of which this is one of those that does. We also worked last year on the preservation of 2 mobile home parks further up valley than these, the one called Aspen Basalt and one called Mountain Valley in near Basalt and in near Carbondale. And so I'm happy to talk about those efforts, but because of that work that the Housing Coalition did last year, we were asked by Cavern Springs and the residents, as well as our members, to coordinate the effort of the local governments and the community's response for this mobile home park as well. So let's see, just for reference, this is the membership in the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition. And we include all of those local governments as well as Colorado Mountain College and RAFTA. And then I'm just going to go really quickly through this because I believe it's what everyone has said. And I'm going to get down here to the end so you can look at this slide while I talk. So one of the things that because we were asked to pulled together by the local governments to coordinate and facilitate the response because it is a regional impact. And so we believe that no one community should have to solve this problem alone or should be contributing to this problem alone because of the impact. And so we recognize that no one's community could do it alone. And so we're trying to coordinate this effort to bring everybody together. I think the other important part is that the other local governments that have already committed funds to this are thinking about it in the same way that you all are, but it has been critical for them to pivot from their current efforts and from their current funding commitments because the loss of 100 units sets us further back when we're thinking about how do we provide workforce housing to the tune that we know that we need to. And everyone, especially some organizations and employers up Valley, are building affordable housing as quickly as they can. If we were just to continue building while losing 100 units, it would be quite detrimental to our efforts. And I think that we are thinking of, mobile home parks are what you hear called naturally occurring affordable housing because they don't own the land underneath, or and the units can fit tighter onto these properties. But we really believe in in affordable housing as infrastructure. Workforce housing is part of our infrastructure of our community. It is very much essential to the way a community functions, especially here. Is the retention of our workforce is critical to our employers, same way roads, bridges are. The scale of supplying workforce housing, the funding needed to do that is similar to the scale and funding needs of other really expensive infrastructure issues. And the loss of housing like the Cavern Springs Mobile Home Park, I think several of the speakers have already alluded to this. The value that I see particularly for Glenwood Springs is that this housing is on the eastern side of Glenwood Springs, southern side, I guess. The next available affordable housing options for the members of this community would be west of Glenwood Springs, right? Further down I-70, which impacts your traffic issues. It also disrupts the employers of these, where these workers are employed. And the loss to the school system could be quite critical. We heard in another presentation, it's about $12,000 a student in a declining enrollment, or the RE2, RE1 school district has declining enrollment. And so they're already facing some pretty tough decisions. If this community had to move further down Valley and pull students out of schools, that could be a significant loss for them as well. So just trying to point out how it affects governments, which is what our role is. And so the Housing Coalition was brought in last year and likewise this year to help the governments and the community understand what's at risk. I think that what we heard of Watkins talking about, the zoning for this land, this parcel is commercial. So another buyer, a future buyer, could scrape and replace all of these units. It could be another mobile home park owner. Like they've said, we've seen that these corporate buyers, these private equity buyers, do tend to increase rents quite dramatically without reinvesting into the community. Certainly those that are buying near resort communities, because in an expensive resort area, you can have buyers such as second homeowners looking to buy a cheaper unit closer to the resort area that can't afford the millions and billions of dollars of homes in Aspen. And so that's what we identify what's at risk. And then we can coordinate and facilitate the local government response. So if we're all coming in this together, some organization has to hold all of these funds. I think Councilor Zielinski, you were asking about the stack and the loan terms. We worked on this last year, and so we assume kind of some similar situations here. But in exchange for governments providing this subsidy, it comes with a requirement that this be preserved as workforce housing, affordable workforce housing in perpetuity. And so we crafted the deed restriction. Our organization would hold that deed restriction and be the one that ensures compliance with the deed restriction and reports back to you. You asked specifically about the loan. And so we did structure it last year, and I imagine we would do it this year as a forgivable loan. A couple of reasons: the residents and their C Corp that they formed, it's a not-for-profit C Corp, so they can't accept money like this. So it has to go through another organization. And the second thing is to tie that restrictive covenant to it. It's a term of the loan. And so we sat last year in 4th position in the lending stack. The forgivable loan was essentially not repaid unless and until the property was ever sold to another private buyer. Even if it is sold to a private buyer, if we're successful in this, it has the deed restriction on it. it would have to have the terms of the deed restriction met, which was that it must be resident occupied units. It must be a resident, let's see, no short-term rentals. It can't be subdivided. So the parcel must stay intact. And then I'm trying to remember if there were any other, oh, and if and when a unit is sold, so not the parcel, but if a unit is sold, that the buyer of that unit must be locally employed and make less than 200% AMI was the restrictions that we put on it last year. And we borrowed some of that language from the mobile home park preservation that Glenwood Springs did, closed on a little bit sooner than we did. So it's similar, should look like similar language. So back to the funding plan. And so the purchase price is $23 million. The acquisition price is estimated to be 24 million. So one of the things that Thistle Rock does, and we think is a really successful model, is that they also require that there's already an operating reserve, a capital reserve, and that some necessary capital improvements are made. And so that $1 million extra is an estimate for what might be required to get all of that going. So with that as the goal, we are looking at Rock Capital. That's the lender that comes with Thistle Rock. So it's another benefit of having Thistle Rock involved. Rock Capital is a national CDFI that specializes in mobile home park purchases. And we have them in as a range because they'll fill the gap for whatever we're not able to raise for the rest of these funds. And so they can do a loan of between 6 and 14 million. They're not going to lock in the rate yet, but they do provide below market rate loans. And so we're looking at something between a 5 and 7% rate. We have another CDFI that is in Colorado that's going to participate in this purchase. That's Impact Development Fund. And so they have committed $2 million to this purchase at a rate of 4%. We are working on a new idea of an $8 million loan package we have some high net worth interested philanthropic individuals who are trying to participate in preservation efforts like this in different ways. And so if they're not able to donate, they may be interested in doing a loan. So we're putting together a package for that that's looking like an $8 million, maybe 4 or 5 individuals that would contribute into that at something like 3%. And then you heard in the video and you heard from the other presenters that we're trying to we have a $6 million goal for local governments with a $2 million goal from donors, philanthropists, and possibly businesses. I can talk to that business piece just a little bit too in a minute. The whole point of the need for the subsidy is that these residents cannot afford to pay back a loan of $24 million. Their lot rents, the repayment would be too high. So we're trying to keep the lot rent repayment to something that's affordable to them. They currently pay a little over $1,000 a month. Our goal is to keep it under $1,400 a month. And so everything on the left-hand of the side of the screen is kind of the squishy stuff that we're trying to mesh together and we don't have solid answers on yet. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have the commitments that you saw earlier with $500,000 from Carbondale, $2 million from Aspen, $1 million from Snowmass, and $1.5 million from Pickens County. So we are up to $5 million in commitments from local governments. We're asking for $500,000 from Glenwood Springs tonight, would bring us to 5.5, and our goal is 6 million. These again are just commitments. None of the funds are moved or exchanged unless and until we're able to close on the deal. So I think it's a beautiful partnership when you actually all have to be in this together to create the success. We also have private donors coming in into this package. And so we have commitments up to of 160,000 so far from private donors, and we're in conversations with lots of others. And then I put the time frame at the bottom. We need these commitments by the end of May because the residents only have until the beginning of June to make their offer. And then the seller has to negotiate that offer in good faith. If the offer is accepted, they have 120 days to close. That's a really tight turnaround for due diligence, but that's when all of the due diligence would be done. So we would get to the final, all of the numbers would become harder during that process. And our organization would remain involved and represent all of this loan package essentially through that process. I think that's everything.
You
And
did
then I
say you
think-
want to talk about the business aspect of it.
The business aspect. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
trying a new idea. Last year when we did this, we wanted to get employers and businesses involved. And we heard regularly that they couldn't or didn't want to commit any funds in support if they couldn't ensure a return on their investment. And so we didn't have time last year to really work with that idea, but we pitched this idea to Thistle Rock and Rock Capital. And it's a little against their model because the whole model is Rock, resident-owned communities. And so they don't like the idea of an owner being in there and renting to someone. However, they recognize that these mobile home park issues, the pressure that's facing them is getting more and more expensive, and therefore they need to be more and more creative with how they bring in funding. And so we pitched the idea that could an employer that helps in the acquisition of this park then have the right to purchase one of the units when they come up for sale, as long as they use that unit for their employee and their employee meets all of the guidelines that we set. And so they really like this creative idea. They think as long as it doesn't become an completely employee-owned park, then that is something that they would entertain. And so we are talking to some employers tomorrow about this idea and trying to get some terms set up around it. But we think that that's a promising idea. We may have some employers that are able to contribute because of that.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, now questions. Go
Now
for
you're
it.
done. Okay, awesome. Questions from council to the applicant. We'll start with Councilor Schmal, please.
Thank you. As a member of the Housing Coalition, how much has Glenwood Springs contributed to that organization offhand? What does our membership cost us?
Annually, currently, it's $21,000 a year. So we've just been together for 3 years, so.
And the final estimate is subject to determining what upgrades are necessary. I presume because of a sale like this, that the water and sewer system there is going to have to be certified or upgraded to current standards. Has any of that been included in your pro forma yet?
It hasn't been included in the pro forma yet, and we don't have the information, but yes, it would be inspected. I'm not sure that they're required to be up to a certain standard, but it's certainly something that a lender in their underwriting is interested in. Okay.
Councilor Townsley.
Quick question on the deed restriction you referenced in there. Is that a deed restriction? You know, you said owner occupied workforce housing. That has nothing to do with Glenwood. That's workforce housing within the valley.
Within the region. Yeah. So from Aspen to Parachute,
So there's nothing that ties that back into Glenwood like the one we did last year.
not like the one you did last year. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Shack.
No more questions.
No, I still got to do the public. Oh, you're not ready? Okay. Well, if I see no more questions, anybody from the public have any comments on this? Please step forward. Please state your name and whether you live in city limits or not.
I think I also failed to mention that I live in Glenwood Springs.
Hi, my name's Rob Anderson. I live here in Glenwood Springs. And I'm against this. And it's, I'm thinking $24 million for 300 residents. And that just seems kind of crazy to me. And I had a banker years ago that said you can get yourself into lots of things if you try hard enough and do creative financing. But with the sense of urgency that they're purporting end of May, I worry that there might be a wrong decision made here. I'll read you a little bit of a letter letter that I was going to send. I think you'll read it tomorrow. And I'm writing to urge you not to provide financial assistance to the Sopris Mountain Collective. Here are 5 reasons for a no vote. And this is the biggest one for me, and it's fairness. These people are paying a little over $1,000 a month. Somebody estimates that if this is sold, they might have to pay $2,000 a month. Many Glenwood Springs residents struggle with affordability. They don't expect they will receive assistance from the city. They do not expect, and they will not receive assistance from the city. Choosing one group to support financially over another is morally unacceptable. We've got a lot of people that are struggling here. I don't know why we picked these 300 people to rescue. Cavern Springs is not in the city. Our funds should be used for city housing or infrastructure needs. The 2C that was passed, that's indirectly my tax dollar. Whether it's been laundered or not, it's money that comes from the citizens of Glenwood Springs. And I would think that that would be for the citizens of Glenwood Springs. Garfield County hasn't chipped in anything. And so apparently I'm not the only one that feels the way I do here.
Rob, can you get a little closer to the microphone, please?
You can't hear me?
We can, but just for the record, so we record the thing.
Could you get a higher microphone? The residents of Cavern Springs are not being displaced. It almost sounds like people think they're gonna, if this doesn't go through, they're all gonna be displaced. And we are not obligated to rescue them. Like all of us, they should be expected to conform to the free market.
There's your 3 minutes. So your time is up. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
I saved the last one for, the best one for last. Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Please state your name and whether you live in the city for the record.
I'm Father Birch Wilson. I live in No Name. And I just want to say that this is what we want to preserve. Many of these folks have lived here in our community for a long time and also in the mobile home park. A number of them I know personally. And this is an opportunity not just for them to have ownership in their homes and this property, but personal ownership in this. They've already demonstrated a commitment to this valley, to their work ethic, building this valley. And they have relationships, some with our families and with our children, with their neighborhoods, with their schools. And those relationships that have been built, we want to maintain and preserve. It's relationships that also affect our relationship as a community, provides more unity, and to continue to build up the core of this society. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and whether you live in city limits, city limits or not for the record.
Hi, Carolyn Meadowcroft, and I do live in Glenwood Springs outside the city limits. I am a member of the Workforce Advisory Board, so I'm here in support of our committee that did approve this $500,000. We do have the funds. We analyzed it very thoroughly. We looked at the support per unit of people that live in Glenwood Springs. We totally recognize that the entire project is not within the city limits, but we also understand that we are more of a regional organization. The people who live there are Glenwood Springs residents, whether they're in the city limit or not. Oddly enough, I lived in this mobile home park 25 years ago. So I have a feeling for what they have gone through, what they could be facing if they would possibly have the rent doubled and, maybe facing the loss of their home. So I support it.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and whether you live in city limits or not, for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Fox Rubin. I live in Basalt, Colorado, and I ran a business in Glenwood Springs for 10 years. It was called Fiber Forge, and I love Glenwood Springs. I believe this community is highly connected. I'm currently a leader at Mountain Voices Project, and we've been working on this challenge of preserving mobile home communities throughout the region for several years now. And we also have a white paper on policy recommendations for the state, because the state legislation that is enabling this process is called the Opportunity to Purchase legislation. And the legislature has been refining that process for the last few years, but the process still has major gaps. And so until the gaps are filled, we're going to keep having challenges like, how do we come up with the subsidy for preserving mobile home communities? There was a Proposition 123 that's a state level funding mechanism that was meant to build new and preserve existing housing in the state. 0.2% of its funding has gone to preservation. Almost all of the remainder of the funding has gone towards building new. So we're working on how do we point out the inconsistencies in the existing legislation. And so we just want you to know we're working on the system level challenges here, but this opportunity here is very real. And this is not the first time that this has happened to Cavern Springs. This happened in 2020, right when the Opportunity to Purchase law came in 5 years ago, and they were unable to prevail at that time. So I hate losing. I helped them then. I'm trying to help them now, and I appreciate your attention to helping them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else here for comments? Name and
Hey,
Live-
everyone.
lives or
Hi,
not?
Council.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Mayor Dem. My name is Catherine Combe, a resident of Carbondale, and I'm here as the project organizer with Mountain Voices Project. Some of the comments tonight, I just wanted to clear the air that the municipal code, that ballot measure 22, which is what we've been talking about, which created the 2C workforce housing, the municipal code that was put into law, it says, I'm just going to read it out loud here, okay? The monies of the Workforce Housing Fund may be budgeted, appropriated, and expended for the benefit of the Glenwood Springs workforce for housing projects and funding opportunities in and adjacent to the city for the following purposes. 1, property acquisition, including land banking, rehabilitation of existing buildings, hotel or motel conversions, maintaining mobile home parks, and other expenses related to maintaining other existing workforce housing. 2, forming partnerships with private nonprofit and other public entities to develop workforce housing, including filling financing gaps and leveraging additional resources to create affordable workforce housing. And then there are, other provisions, but I'm not going to read them in the interest of time. But I'm just saying, I think the language in the code is incredibly clear and allows the funding to be used for a project like Cavern Springs and Sopris Mountain Collective. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Anybody else? Okay. Please come forward, state your name and whether you live in city limits or not.
Good evening, guys. My name is Christian Guzman. I am currently a resident of Cavern Springs Mobile Home Park. I just wanted to make a comment. I actually work in the city market store here in Glenwood. Just a little point of view. A lot of comments that I get are due to the affordability. There's a lot of employees that I work with that either drive Newcastle, Silt, or Rifle. That's the rule. The exceptions are Carbondale, Basalt, Aspen. Everybody comes from there, and there is always that doubt of what can we get closer to the valley that's not going to break the bank. Luckily, I was able to get something, have my family here and grow. I really don't want to lose it, It is also part of the American dream. Own and prosper. It is a concern, again, with as many people as I work with. I do feel like this is a great chance, especially to bring out the Glenwood Springs town as a name that would voice that help for everybody else. That way we have more mobile parks that are willing to move up with the help of the local government, whether it be the whole valley or just the county. I do wanted to mention, it is a recurring concern with everybody. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Any other comments? Please come forward, state your name and whether you live in city limits or not for the record.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Liliana Cereceres.
Hold on just a second.
Okay. 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 Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Liliana Cereceres. Yo soy maestra en Riverview. El año pasado entré a Riverview porque vi la necesidad de maestros para preschool. Tengo a mi niño de 6 años que estudia allí en Riverview y veo la necesidad.
Good afternoon. My name is Liliana Cereceras, and I am a teacher at Riverview. I started working at Riverview last year because I saw that there was a need for preschool teachers, and my 6-year-old child goes to school there as well.
Estoy notando que el distrito está falto de estudiantes para la escuela de Riverview. Estamos trabajando para conseguir más niños que vayan a esa escuela. Y pienso que si algo pasara en nuestro parqueadero, que muchas personas no pudieran costear el pago, muchos niños se moverían, entonces esta escuela colapsaría.
And the district is losing a lot of students, and we are trying to get more kids to enroll at Riverview. And what I think would happen is if something were to happen at our park where the residents couldn't afford to pay the rent, is that those kids would move and the school would collapse.
Y les agradecería mucho algún apoyo que tuvieran para Cavern Springs, para preservar nuestros hogares y también preservar a nuestros estudiantes en Riverview. Gracias.
So I appreciate any support that you can offer to Cavern Springs to preserve our homes and to preserve our students at Riverview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being
Muchísimas
here.
gracias. Gracias por estar presente.
Any other comments? Please state your name and whether you live in city limits or not.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Andres Martinez. I'm a current resident at Cavern Springs, and I'm very sorry. I'm like, very shy right now. Public speaking isn't my best. I'm currently a student at CMC getting my associates. I have 3 younger siblings. One currently about to graduate this May at Glenwood Springs High School. 2 of them are still in school, one of them being my younger sister, a freshman in the Glenwood Springs High School, and my little brother going into, I'm pretty sure 3rd grade in Riverview. My siblings do love their school. I personally graduated from the Glenwood Springs High School in 2023. I love Glenwood personally. It's an amazing place. I would love to stay here once I graduate with the help of you guys. If you guys decide to help, staying here in the Valley would pretty much help me bring my future and workplace a bit more closer to home in this beautiful place. Sorry, I'm shaking. I currently work at the CMC Vet Tech Farm. I don't know if you guys have ever been up there. We always do open houses during Halloween with our animals up there. That's pretty much what I'm studying. Because that's what I want to do. I want to help animals, and I know there's a lot of places around here that need, and especially in Glenwood, where there's the need of people who, students to, once they graduate college, to stay in the Valley. Most of them leave. I personally would love to stay here. I love Glenwood. I'm pretty much always in Glenwood, whether it's shopping, whether it's hanging out with my parents at the parks, being in the river with my siblings, or even at the library. I love Glenwood, and I would really hope you guys decide to help us with this. And those kids at the Cavern Springs, you would see them pretty much at the streets playing soccer, being on their bikes, and it's a really nice community. everybody's together and every neighbor pretty much knows everybody. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. You did great,
Thank you.
just so you know. Okay, anybody else? Any other comment? All right, please, yep, please come forward. You should have had a sign-up sheet on.
Good evening. I'm Karen Jewell, and I also live in Glenwood Springs. I've been there just about 30 years. We moved out here from South Dakota, and that was the first place we bought and still live there. I'm retired. It's affordable. It's a quiet neighborhood. We don't have trouble out there. I don't think we ever have cops having to come out there for fights or cards being stolen. So it's really a quiet place. Like the other gal, everybody gets along. Y'all know your neighbors. Nobody fights. And it's just a quiet and a safe place to live, especially with a lot of younger kids that are out there in the park now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please come forward, state your name and whether you live in city limits or not.
Yeah, my name's Ed Muniz, retired UPS driver. I've lived out in Cavern Springs for 36 years. And the gentleman that was opposed, there is a little bit of a threat of being displaced. These outside investors that come in, which is apparent with the property just past us, you know, they're going to come in and just blow the place up and make tons of money. And our property would be very valuable if we were displaced. You know, look at the rents around here. And there are a lot of retirees. And people of retirement age also that live there, and there's disability. My brother-in-law is here with me. He has disabilities, and there are a couple other that are disabled. And there's retired vets. And I mean, it's a community, and we're all making more and more friends now. But you know, I know my surrounding neighbors very well, but since this is taking place, we've become more friendly and have relationships with them. And box stores are reasons for these people to come into Glenwood, spend their money. There's all this money here in town. We pay our taxes, we register our vehicles, we vote next door. You know, everyone is a part of Glenwood, whether it's considered inside or outside of the city limits. We are a community part of Glenwood, and we want to stay that way. And we want it to be affordable, because some of us do have pensions, some of us do not, just retirement, but rents go up higher, and there's several families or people that live by themselves. So I don't know how they're going to be able to afford any rate increase if that does happen, especially by an outside investor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here. Any other comments? Please state your name for the record.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Spidell, Glenwood Springs resident, Glenwood Springs business owner, and you guys know me from the 2C as well. I think we've covered everything. The only thing I'm going to add is, like, I'm super proud. I want to give everyone a hand just for showing up. Please give yourself a hand. I mean, this is community involvement at its best. When people show up like this is rare. So thank you guys. And we've approved several other jobs or projects, Canyon Vista, L3, where we could not guarantee that there were Glenwood Springs resident workers, but we have a great knowledge that we're doing for a quarter of what Aspen's putting into this. And we have it in our budget. We can make a huge impact. And private capital does not care about this. They care about return on investment. And we have this opportunity to maintain our diversity of housing. And I hope you do that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for being here. Any more comments? Okay, I'll see none. I'll close the public portion of this hearing and I will bring it back to council. This is an action item tonight, so I am entertaining a motion and we're going to go with Councilor Schachter.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start with one comment for the sake of our visitors. Our procedure is to make motions and then have council comments. So just so you understand the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend, I move to approve the forgivable loan request from West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition for Cavern Springs Mobile Home Park with an affordability covenant upon the mobile home park property. Based on the findings that are in our packet, page 186, there are 2 recommended findings, but I'd like to elaborate a little bit more, if I may, that are not listed on those 2. Thank you, Watkins. One is, this is clearly allowed under the 2C referendum and mandate and falls under that umbrella. Number 2, should we be successful, we are clearly adding control of cost and stability for the community. The cost is also way less than replacement of any new housing. There appears to be and seems to be an economic benefit to the city in terms of shopping and economic value. There is also the fact that we are entering a partnership, which is also one of our housing mandates and will help us should we be asking in the future. It is development neutral. I think for now, that's enough findings. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, to say it the short way. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this request. Now, let's go with comments from council.
I'll start.
Oh, you want to keep going? Please go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, this fits within so much of what our kind of like higher goals are. We have this mandate. Mr. Anderson was a little bit, I think maybe misinformed. This is not his tax dollars. This was a fund that was created by ballot language. It's a new fund. This is a source of money that is specific for workforce housing. And we are not picking winners, we're preserving an asset. And I think that's a really important distinction. This is an asset for anybody who is currently enjoying it and who will come after that. And I think that we should take a moment to recognize that. Development neutral is something that I think aligns with our core values. And I appreciate learning. I was concerned when I saw this on our docket, if we had the latitude to do that based on the 2C language. And so I feel really comfortable that we are being good stewards of this and acting appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Smith.
Thank you. The notion that money from this particular city fund ought to be used for projects and residences and residents within Glenwood Springs is very compelling. Even aside from how the money was approved or is allocated, a big part of the vision behind this is keeping a diverse, close-knit community where people work where they live near where they shop, go to schools near their homes. Kind of the qualitative aspects of this fund are very important. Turns out you can do that without necessarily being inside the city limits. This is a project that still fulfills those things, keeps children in our school district, helps people stay close to where they shop, and preserve that integrated community network, even though it's a couple miles away. So I think that argument is compelling, that we want to use this to enhance the Glenwood Springs life experience. And I think this does that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Townsend.
I've got a couple things. I don't doubt that the sense of community and all the pieces that you've talked about tonight are very real and very compelling. I do have some reservations, and I don't know that I'm totally as convinced as everybody else has been here that we've clearly met all the guidelines of the 2C funding and the ordinance that went into place. I just, there's what's written in the language, which I think is pretty murky at best. And then also the intent of that when the voters approved it. When we're looking at something where, obviously an investment firm, somebody's taking big advantage of this. They paid 4.5 million for it in 2018, and now it's 24 million. So it's a 500% increase. You know, those aren't good things. You guys are on the sad end of that story, and that's not good. On the other hand, when I look at the price of a 2-bedroom apartment, and I picked Buffalo Valley, but it could be any of these in Glenwood Springs, and a 2-bedroom apartment's $2,700 and a 3-bedroom apartment's $3,300. And we're talking about affordability. I do think there's an issue to look at when we say, okay, how come we're picking this group of people to give them something that, are we going to subsidize everybody in the valley? Because I mean, even if you doubled rents, and I understand there's probably mortgage payments on some of these, and maybe some of them there aren't, but we still have a lot of people that are paying way more than that in just rent, let alone household income. So I think the piece of where it go out, and people could be displaced. It's a commercially zoned piece of land. I don't think that's what would happen, but maybe that does happen. But I do think that, you know, worst case, even doubling. I mean, it's not good. There's no answer to that. But how do you tell somebody that comes in here that's paying $3,000 a month in rent, and his rent's going to keep going up year after year, that we've taken tax funds and we've said, okay, we're going to take a project that's outside the city limits of Glenwood, and we're going to choose these people to help. And then somewhere down the line, somebody comes in and says, you know, we're ready to do something on a park that's here in Glenwood, or another type of project that comes along. We say, well, we can't help you there because we've used all that money. So those are some of my reservations at this point. The other, one other reservation is that, and this has nothing to do with you guys because you're affected by it, but you're residents of Garfield County. Garfield County apparently doesn't want to fund anything for anybody. They want us to build them a bridge, a bypass, a fire mitigation route, and house Garfield County citizens, which are also, you know, citizens of the valley, citizens of Glenwood, but you know, there should be, at some point, they should step forward and do something. So those are my reservations at this point.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Schmall.
This project clearly fulfills many of the goals of the 2C ballot issue measure. It's clearly a worthy project, a good community. I wish you success in your pursuit of buying your property. I hope you're able to make it happen. I really do. On the other hand, I think that the 2C ballot measure passed in the interest specifically of Glenwood Springs, not outside of Glenwood Springs. I wrestled also with the term adjacent, and I could find no relevant definition from that word that makes Cavern Springs adjacent to Glenwood Springs. It's close, and it's definitely part of the community, but I don't think it fits the bill with the intent or the description that was in the ballot. There's also 6 more parks in Glenwood Springs that are probably going to be subject to the same thing that you're experiencing where you are now. And that's unfortunate. We can vilify Garfield County for not funding this, but the reality is that there are limits to how much resource there is and how it's allocated. And we have to make those hard decisions about how that gets allocated. And I think we're going to have more demand than we're going to have capacity for in the future. So on those issues, I'll have a hard time supporting this motion.
Thank you. Counselor Schachter.
Thank you. I will respectfully address the last 2 counselors why I might disagree with them. Number one, not being able to help everyone shouldn't be an excuse not to help a current situation. That to me is clear. This does meet legally and I believe ethically all the guidelines that we've set up both at the time of the referendum as well as how the commission, the 2C commission has evolved. And bear in mind, it was a unanimous decision by 2C and a critical part of our comp plan. So I think that's important. I would also say, as Ray said, it fills many of our goals and it's worthy. It is in the interests of Glenwood. We have workforce there, we have kids there, we have shoppers there. Adjacent can mean anything you want. It still fits the intent of the commission and the referendum, in my opinion. And I also believe there's a critical element here. Yes, we have more parks. We don't know if and when they will come up, but it's our goal right now, I don't think, to bank money for opportunities that may come up or not, but to spend the money as mandated for opportunities that have come up, and this is one that has come up. And just as importantly, we are a relatively small contributor to a large regional effort, which I also believe gives us the very leverage we'll need when other opportunities come up that we may not be able to afford. So we can go to our other neighbors in the valley saying, we helped you, we need help now. But right now, this is a critical opportunity in front of us that meets all the criteria that we've been shooting for housing. So I respectfully would support this and disagree with some of the perceptions of some of my councilmen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Weimer.
There was a gentleman that spoke tonight against this measure, and he talked about it being his tax money, laundered or not, I think was his language, but it's, unless he's a lodger, unless he books accommodation in town, it's not his tax money. So 2C, Proposition 2C was a 2.5% accommodations tax levied on top of the existing 2.5% accommodations tax, right? So no one in this room is paying tax, safely said, toward 2C, right? These are tourists and visitors. So I wanted to make that clarification. I also would ask my fellow counselors to stay super focused on what the mandate is and how this addresses the mandate. Proposition 2C is not to keep kids in our school district. Proposition 2C is not to keep the vitality or the energy of the community. It's not. Proposition 2C is toward workforce housing. And it's only to be used for workforce housing. And it can only be used by a person working within the city limits or inside of the zip code. There's the adjacent part, semantics, I think that becomes much more of a subjective decision, whether you want to, parachute, probably not adjacent. Carbondale, obviously more adjacent, somewhere between Carbondale and here, probably more so. But I don't know that we need to define adjacency tonight. I think it's about focus on workforce, and it's focused on people working within the city limits or inside of the zip code. I discredit the 36% data point because I think that it probably takes into account a lot of students. There's just no way that you can logically take this, feel like you're doing a good job taking the students out of that number, regardless, or irregardless, as my dad would say. There's no doubt that there is a statistically significant number of people in this mobile home park who are Glenwood Springs or 80601 workforce folks. I don't know that anybody could deny that. And so while I came into this conversation, this discussion against this, I am now in support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. Our advisory board member mentioned this, but I kind of want to pile on to appreciate the people who turned out tonight to observe, and many of them to bravely speak on this measure. Several months ago, many of you and many more of your neighbors came here, well organized, well prepared with your remarks, eloquent in your remarks, and we sent you packing. So I admire your tenacity in getting your organization together, in having patience to try again. I don't know how this vote will go. We won't know that in a little bit, but either way, your sticking with it is admirable, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Thank you. If I see no more comments, which I don't, a couple of things. First of all, thank you for clarifying the tax situation here. I completely agree with you. It is not his tax. It is accommodations tax that has been thankfully paid by tourists and visitors. I had a couple of concerns about the within city limits and 81601, and I would like to talk to Carl for a second if I could, because I think you're the one that actually wrote the ballot language, and I would like to hear you for the record say that this
Sure.
meets the intent of what we're trying to do here.
I mean, every voter is different, but let me start with the actual ballot
Yeah.
language, because there's two things going on. There's the ballot language and there's the enabling. And what you heard read earlier was the enabling ordinance and not actually the ballot language. As it relates to the ballot language, there's probably two provisions of that. Well, there were three bullet points. One was increase the supply of workforce housing for Glenwood Springs residents and employees of Glenwood Springs businesses, including but not limited to purchasing real property, addressing infrastructure, and redeveloping existing housing. Another bullet point was provide resources for the city to form partnerships with the private and nonprofit sectors and other public entities to develop workforce housing. And the third was to support programs to reduce the cost of renting or purchasing workforce housing, provide available housing, and maintaining existing affordable housing within the city. So that was the language, that was the ballot language. In terms of, you heard it read before, but I think the language, and I was the author of it, but not the one that voted on it. And so I can't speak to what you guys or those that voted on it at the time. Two things, property acquisition, including land banking, rehabilitation of existing buildings, hotels, motel conversions, maintaining mobile home parks. And there again, forming partnerships with private and nonprofit and other public entities. And we use the language, that question of adjacency. And I think that adjacent means what you guys interpret it to mean. I'll be really frank with you that I think at the time there were discussions around what that meant in terms of temporal proximity. And I think to Councilor Weimer's point, I think 81601 is a really good way to think about that adjacency, honestly, because it also kind of goes to other portions of our code and other portions of this, talking about where you can be and be eligible for our affordable housing programs and all of those kinds of things. So from my perspective, if council finds that this is adjacent, I think it is a reasonable finding, and I think it is supportable and defensible. So that's where I would leave it at. I would suggest if you wanted to, you could add that to the motion. I don't know that you need to. You've had a lot of discussion around it. But there again, I find it a defensible position.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'd like to hear. The other thing I want to mention quick is the fairness of we're helping one group but not the other. And maybe a lot of people are not aware of this, but the City of Glenwood Springs actually has a rental assistance program that you can apply for if you are in the workforce housing in Glenwood Springs and you need help to get your place affordable. So check it out on the website. So it's not limited to just you guys. We're helping a lot of people across the board. We're submitting funds to the Western Housing Coalition. We're involved in all kinds of things to help out. So I don't want to go back to comments if we don't absolutely have to, but if you got one more thing. Okay, please, Councilor Tansley.
Mike.
Oh.
Back to our council. So 2 or 3 times in here, somebody said, well, it's within 81601, which I hadn't read that when I was there. And I don't think you just read that to me unless you're saying.
No, I was saying that it was a way to think about
It's a way around that language that's in there.
Well, I don't know if it's a way around the language, it's a way of thinking about adjacency. I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth about how you think about that and interpret it. But I do think adjacency as the ordinance is written is something for council to determine what they believe adjacency is. And if you use 81601, I think that is a defensible position. Say that was the answer.
And then did you also read that it said in the ballot language within the city?
As to one of the bullet points, yeah, hang on, let me pull it up for you. Support programs to reduce the cost of renting or purchasing workforce housing, provide available housing, and maintain existing affordable housing within the city. Depending on how you read where the commas are, it either modifies the whole clause or just that last clause. So, there again, that's what the ballot language says. So I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay, thank you. With no more comments, Amend for what? No, I don't. I think we'll leave it alone. I just want to make sure everybody understands. We have a motion to approve with a bunch of findings and a second to support that. So with that, I will call the question.
No, Counselor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. Yes, Counselor Weimer. No, Counselor Schmall. Yes, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-2.
Thank you, Ryan. And before everybody heads out, I do want to say thank you to all of you for being here. I know it's not easy to speak in front of people sitting on the board like this, but thank you for being here and making your case tonight. You were successful. So I wish you best of luck and keep enjoying your homes. So go for it. Thank you. Yeah. Do a 5-minute recess. half of city council meeting for May 7th tonight. Moving into item 11, right-of-way and grading permits. Ryan Gordon, city engineer.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Gordon, city engineer. Bringing back both the right-of-way and grading permits for review. Last time you challenged us to make a few tweaks. And so we went back to the drawing board and took a look. So on the grading permit, what we ended up doing is we made the floor, we changed a few of the requirements. So what we said that if you're adding 200 square feet of impervious, so hardscape, we still want you to come back with the permit and tell us what you're doing if you're affecting your neighbors. The substantial change is we lowered the floor if you're just doing a like for like. For example, you're taking out some lawn and putting in some flower beds. That we said we bumped it up from 200 to 500 square feet. We thought that was relatively reasonable considering that, again, we're not changing the condition. What we have put into the permit to kind of protect ourselves and the applicant and others is explicit language that says you are not allowed, your water from your property is not allowed to flow over to your adjacent property owner, excuse me, and negatively affect them. We also added in there that the engineering department has discretion over the penalties applied. Again, our goal in this is not to be heavy-handed with the penalties. And that's why we want to allow someone who's come in may not have known the regulations that comes in good faith and brings their issue and resolves it, and we can waive those. So again, we wanted the engineering department to have the discretion to control that. I know one of the things on the right-of-way permit that was requested or was thinking about how can we, minimize the negative impacts from development, say in the downtown core or others. We ended up deciding that what we had in the right-of-way permit that you reviewed previously, that's here now, is we didn't make those changes. And really the reason why is number one, prior to a right-of-way permit being issued, it is reviewed by the engineering department. So that includes the impacts of the project, and we can limit what we would approve in that permit. Also, the permit has a 6-month expiration date. So if things are going poorly, we have the opportunity to correct problems. Again, with the new penalties we have in there, we think we have a way of compelling an applicant to fix their problems if there are there. So with that being said, I'll leave that open to you guys for comments and discussions if you have questions over these permits or not.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. We'll start with questions from Councilor Schmal.
So Ryan, these are additional requirements in order to obtain a grading permit and making it formal that you need to get a grading permit that maybe wasn't existing before. Have I got that right?
No, we are really just, the permit has always existed. A grading permit has always existed in the city if you're doing modifications to your property. What we're doing is doing slight tweaks. What we think is both cost balancing it, as I presented last time. It was the cost structure. Larger projects that deserve more land had a relatively minuscule fee. What we've done is we've said, look, if you have a bigger project that has more impacts, we're going to charge you more money. And a lot of that is just not because we don't like you or you're grading, but is the amount of review it takes for city staff to take in a big development and review it. So a lot of it's trying to balance that better. And then again, what we're trying to do is making it more straightforward. We are adding penalties to this. And then the reason why is we want to have the ability to make sure people are following the permit. So that's really, so it's not any new requirements from when you required a permit. In fact, per direction from you guys, we've actually made it a little bit easier or less stringent, right? Raising the limits from 200 to 500. We've exempted a lot of projects that would just be your normal landscaping project. So we're trying to I'm gonna say is thread that needle between oversight and your ability to do what you want on your property.
So you hopefully made it clearer and easier on the applicant side.
That is our goal.
And you're making it more burdensome for your department to review and evaluate. Is that right?
Well, I would say since we are, taking the burden from those smaller projects from a square footage perspective, I think we're gonna relieve some of our folks from having to do, look at those smaller projects, right? So I think it actually really satisfies a bunch of the different criteria. And I think at the end of the day, our lives will be slightly easier and less burdensome from this.
So you won't need more staff for enforcement or for evaluation.
Not beyond what we have now.
Great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll see none. Thank you, Ryan. Anybody from the public? Also see none. Moving on, bring it back to council. We do need to make a decision in this. So entertaining a motion and right of way and grading permits, item 11 on the agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Selinsky.
I would like to move to approve ordinance 2026-07. An ordinance, nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry, my bad. This is much easier to read. I was to approve the revisions to the right-of-way and grading permits as presented.
Thank you. Motion to approve. And a second? Councilor Weimer?
Thank you.
Excellent. Second from Councilor Weimer. Any more discussion? We have a motion to approve and a second to all of that. So I'll call for the question.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on, item 12 on tonight's agenda, ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, rezoning 7 parcels totaling 20.84 acres from the Glenwood Springs Mall Planned Unit Development, also known as a PUD, to mixed-use corridor M1 district. This is the second reading, so we've already done the first one. I think it was last meeting, I think. So this is just a follow-up second reading, as always. With an ordinance. Councilor Weimer, or is there anything, Trent?
I think we do want to open up for public comment. We don't. There was some confusion. We're working through some changes to the consent agenda. I apologize. So just a quick motion. There's no requirement for a public hearing.
Since it's the second reading?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's what I thought. Thank you, Trent, as well. Councilor Weimer.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask if I can pass all 3 second readings in a single motion?
As long as you read the titles to all 3.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2026-07, ordinance City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, rezoning 7 parcels totaling 20.84 acres from Glenwood Springs Mall Planned Unit Development to mixed use corridor M1 district. Also move to approve, within the same motion, to approve ordinance 2026-08, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending Glenwood Springs Municipal Code regarding regulation and permitting of exterior lighting and signage, planning file CDA 00027/2026, and also to approve ordinance 2026-09, ordinance city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending Glenwood Springs Municipal Code regarding regulation and permitting of landscaping, screening, and fencing, planning file CDA 00026/2026.
Okay, excellent. We have a motion to approve and a fast second to go with it. Any discussion? I see none. I'll call for the question. To approve all 3 of them. Item 12, 13, and 14 on the agenda.
It passes unanimously.
Excellent. That concludes our, thank you, Councilor Weimer. Good job. That then concludes our discussions and actions.
I move to dismiss the meeting.
Not dismissing. Council comments. We'll start with the Councilor Townsley tonight. Councilor Schmall. Mayor Pro Tem Selinsky. Okay, Councilor Smith. Oh, I thought I was in a roll.
You were, you got halfway across. Nice job. Thank you. Just want to note that 2 senior staff members from the city staff have departed recently for retirement and new opportunities. Respectfully, Doug Hazard at the electric department and Sarah Weigel at the administration office. Both have done remarkable service in very different ways. The electric system in this town is resilient, as it really needs to be, and is works and has pretty rapidly flexed to respond to sudden bursts of development, this new surge of high demand electric car charging networks, and squirrels. So it's a diverse job, and it was handled for a long time by a very smart leader. I appreciate his service. We spend a lot of time in public and in individual conversations with our senior administrative staff. And they make the city look really good, and they make the city perform really well. And Sarah Weigel made them look good by keeping things on track, keeping things scheduled, keeping communications crisp and sharp, and among many other things, running the entire accessible communications conversion of city records and city communication systems. So those two people aren't present, but I think they got some other appreciation gestures, but I wanted to add to those and thanking them for their service. This evening, we had a work session with one of our advisory commissions that has a really robust membership and really diverse membership, and 2 people came. That happened twice before recently. I wonder if one factor is having those volunteers invited to come here in the middle of the afternoon. I wonder if instead we might bump the volunteer advisory commission work sessions later into the work session schedule closer to the end of the workday as a suggestion. Thank you.
I give them an option.
Oh,
Yeah, I give the staff liaisons an option. I ask them, they ask the board and commission members when they want to go. So they have first priority.
okay. I was at the historic preservation meeting the other night, and however that got communicated one direction or the other, a bunch of people said, I wish I could be there, but I can't. I think it doesn't hurt to, unless they object, to bump them closer to the closing of the workday to make it a little bit more possible for members to attend. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fine, thank you, Ryan. It's fine. We can definitely keep the conversation going on when they want to do it. So, Councilor Jack.
Yeah, a couple of quick
Matt,
kudos.
Mike,
past
Mike.
events. Oh, all right. Just kudos, Chief, to the recent fire and EMS open house and event that was phenomenal again, and the weather cooperated, thankfully. Great turnout and great show of our resources. And to Jim Hardcastle, Aaron Zielinski, and our River Commission for the spring river cleanup, which is very successful and well organized. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski quick.
Yeah, over 60 people showed up and 2,000 pounds of trash was picked up. So it was not
Wow.
insignificant.
Nice. Good info. Councilor Weimer.
Following the handbook and the process.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about this last fall. Right around the time there was that homeless encampment fire behind the Walmart. I think, and we started getting some traction. No, we didn't. I started talking a little bit about looking into the possibility of adding like a fire safety surcharge or fee or whatever the language is going to need to be to those 1 pound gas canisters.
Propane,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So I think a couple of things. They're incredibly dangerous up there on the hillside when the fire starts. You can literally hear them pop and spread. Second, they're a huge source of trash up in those camps. If you've ever walked, it's mattresses and 1 pound gas canisters. And I think there's some room to address both of those hazards. I would like to see if there's interest amongst you guys to bring this into a work session to start diving into the details.
Okay, there's a request. Do we get any support? Councilors Counselor Townsley, Counselor Schmall. I'm going to turn you all on and then you can just do your thing. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski and Counselor Smith.
I would, at the end, so I'll start. I would definitely like to see us talk about that some more. The one thing that scares me a little bit is if we say, okay, you can't use a gas canister, do we have open fires going up there for people cooking?
It would
stuff?
be just a charge onto those canisters.
But again, making them harder to
Oh,
get.
oh, I get you.
Right.
So do we do one? I don't know the answer to that question, but that would be something good to look at is they're going to cook their food somehow.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Counselor Schmall.
Yeah, I think probably most of those are stolen anyway. So I don't think they're gonna pay the fee. I really am more interested in a more comprehensive plan on how to discourage homeless residents in Glenwood Springs.
This could be a big part of that. Or
I
a
agree.
starting brick.
Right.
Anything we can do to discourage. Because I saw the numbers in the first quarter report and the increases, was it fourfold from last year at least in the encounters? And I tell you, it's gonna get worse. We were well advised to deal with it now before it gets a lot harder to deal with. And I don't know the answers, but I've heard a lot of what we can't do. I haven't heard a lot of what we can do. And I think as a city, it's incumbent upon us to do more of what we can do.
Thank you. So just to be clear, it sounds like the work session has now turned into more of a homeless and propane canister. Is that still your kind of intention? Where are you, Councillor Weimer?
I'd like to start by staying tactical and focused on this first issue and allow that to become a starting point for a broader discussion.
Okay, I think that covers it. Thank you.
You turned me on, but you haven't let me talk.
I know.
Okay,
I
okay. I
just
was
wanted to
I
jump
had
in.
to turn
Everybody
it on.
understands what we're doing, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Thank you. I was going to basically redirect us back to that and to say, you know, like, I think we could look at this as a tool in the toolbox and a tactic to start with. And then, you know, to Councillor Townsley's point, like, look at it holistically to see what could be the unintended consequences and make sure that we are addressing those at the same time. So if it's, you know, is a more strident ban on open flames or some sort of recognition of, you know, cause and effect of that, I think that should be part of that conversation. So maybe some sort of a staff report in like prior to.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councillor Smith.
I concur on both the original point and the follow-up point, that let's focus on this as a beginning measure that may lead to other conversations. And if indeed this request is translating into staff doing some research and bringing back some proposals, I'd suggest that among the options be an outright ban on the sale of disposable fuel containers in Glenwood Springs. They're a dangerous, wasteful hazard wherever they end up. Let's just not sell them. Knowing that that's not going to go real far, I'd still like to know kind of the legal dynamics of that. And to also consider a third option to simply put a deposit return measure on this, which motivates opportunists to gather them up and bring them in for $1.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess talking about schedule, anything we can do next meeting or is it too soon?
We can probably get it on next meeting.
Okay, just something to start and have a half hour, 45 minutes to start with him and then maybe figure out where else we want to go. Okay, excellent. Thank you. That leaves me and I don't think I have anything. That's correct. So, city manager, Steve Boyd.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay, city attorney, Bob Hammond.
Nothing for me.
Yeah, you're clear. You're good. Don't have to check. Mr. Muse, city clerk, correspondence.
Nothing.
Nothing. Excellent. Then Mayor Pro Tem Selinsky, please, a social event
I think
announcement.
we're gonna reconvene over at Dax today.
That's all?
Yeah, I think
For
we're
change?
gonna
Okay.
bounce back, yeah.
Been a minute. That sounds great. So everybody heard it. Entertaining a motion to adjourn
I so move.
and a second.
Second.
All in favor? No, can't do that. Sorry.
Nope.
Got to
Nope.
call for the question. Ryan, one more time.
Let's roll.
Awesome.
Dave, are you staying here tonight?
We good?
I'll get it out.
Text her back and say I'm drinking.
Townsley nailed it.